I'm really delighted that coming on to Not the Andrew Marr Show, we've got two activists and reporters, and wouldn't even know what to describe them as because they don't fit into tick a box particularly because we've got Kynan Thistlethwaite and Jose Vega, who have both been part of a clip that has gone viral. I'm just going to play the clip.
Oh, is this the lecture hall with Seymour Hersh? I'm looking for the one with Seymour Hersh because it's a policy and press hall event. So shouldn't we be talking about the Nord Stream since that's the biggest story of the century? And you guys, you know, I mean, you have the executive editor of the New York Times there who came out with a phony story to try and block Seymour Hersh. It's just kind of funny how that happened, you know? I mean, did you even acknowledge Seymour Hersh? All of you are executive editors of papers that broke Pentagon, My Lai, Watergate. Is this the same papers or not? I mean, is there anything you've gotten right in the last 20 years, or am I mistaken about that? I mean, it's just kind of funny because Iraq, wrong. Syria, wrong. Russiagate, really wrong. Okay, I mean, the list goes on and on. So the last thing you could do to try and actually fix your reputation is acknowledge that through leaks, we had to find out that Zelensky was going to bomb Moscow on the anniversary. I mean, if you're so impartial, shouldn't you at least say, right, that Zelensky was going to bring us on the verge of World War III? That seems pretty fair. While Julian Assange rots in prison, all of you've got, you know, fat checks because he's in jail for doing your job. And you know what? Tucker Carlson ain't no Seymour Hersh, but he did something you guys are scared to do. Speak the truth and actually be critical of the war, which is why he was actually fired from Fox, because you are all cowards. Every single one of you. None of you have actually had any relevancy. And you know what? The mainstream press is now dying. Nobody's ever going to listen to you again. You have no credibility with the public. The only people who care about what you have to say are elite assholes who have nothing productive to say anymore. And it's dying off. So will you at least say something, either about Nord Stream or Ukraine or the fact that Zelensky brought us to the verge of World War III and the only reason we knew about that was through leaks? Go ahead. It's a free speech event, right? You guys are the press. Let's say something here. Mr. Khan, come on. You know, you're the executive editor of the New York Times, you know? I'm just trying to get into some good trouble here, man. Woo. Listen, Karen, get out of my face for a second. I got to talk to these gentlemen. Okay. Well, I just want to hear what they have to say. Go ahead. I'm done.
Wait your turn.
You're not going to tell to you. Come.
Wait your turn.
You could project if we can't.
I would just say I think it's important to hear everybody's point of view.
Yeah.
So thank you.
All right.
I do think that we need to give our moderator a chance to ask other questions.
We're on the verge of World War III.
We're not doing that. We're not doing that. Also do so. Let's go. Really? Let's go.
Say something about this bombing. We blew up the Nord Stream pipeline. Listen, don't stand there while there are people rotting in prison. Nobody said anything about Uhuru, right? The socialists who are in jail for being critical of this war. God damn it.
Let's go. Let's go.
At least say something about the people in jail for being critical of this war. They don't deserve to be in prison right now.
It's incredible to watch that. How many times have you seen that, Jose?
I don't know. I mean, at this point, like, I get reminded of it every time I do a show now, and it always pops back up on my feed by some other bootleg version. When I mean bootleg, I mean like somebody who takes my video from my Twitter and then reposts it on their own Twitter account. Right. So I've seen it, I don't know, hundreds of times at this point now. I think I know it line by line now what I said, because, you know, usually these things are semi-improvised, right? I know what topics I want to hit. I don't necessarily know how I'm going to, you know, deliver it, but yeah.
Was that, I mean, is that something that you had scripted, or did you actually improvise some of what you were saying? Because it's unbelievably articulate and calm in a way. the whole way you delivered it was phenomenal.
I didn't have a script per se. I just knew in my mind, I was thinking, okay, Tucker Carlson's just been fired. The executive editor of the New York Times is here, so they've blocked Seymour Hersh. And there's Julian Assange, of course. He's just a Policy and Press Hall event. So, you know, even though it seemed incredibly articulate for me, when I'm rewatching, I was like, and maybe I shouldn't do this, but I'm always like, I should have said this and this and this and this and this, right? But other people are like, wow. So I would say it's almost semi-spontaneous. I know the points I want to hit. And the moment I only figure, and in the beginning, I texted Kynan. I was like, okay, I think I'm gonna try something new here. So because it was at Columbia Journalism School, it was like a lecture hall. So I said, wouldn't it be funny if I just played like the dolt who walked into the wrong classroom looking for Seymour Hersh? Like, that's the thing. All these people are haunted by Seymour Hersh. So that's why in the beginning I say, oh, is this the lecture hall with Seymour Hersh? Now, even though it's only a 2 or 3 second pause, it felt like an eternity in that moment because I saw their faces. It was completely bug-eyed. So, yeah.
I mean, Kynan, what's the background to this? Were you frustrated? Are you both frustrated by the media's lack of truth? Have you tried the media and they haven't done it, or did you? I mean, is this a long process that you've got to where you start coming into these kind of places?
Well, I think it's really a process that begins in 2019 because Jose had intervened on one of our Congress here in New York, Adriano Espaillat, on the fact that, you know, no one was reporting that there were neo-Nazis in Ukraine. That was 2019, and he had intervened then. And then what really, I think, got these videos viral was our intervention against AOC, because at one point, you know, she had stood up for progressive ideas. She had said that she was going to run against the establishment, and she has not fulfilled any of that. You know, she has bowed down to these war makers in Congress. You know, she is bringing us on the verge of World War III. And really, we just want to be holding these people accountable, you know, because no one else is doing it. All the questions that they receive at these kinds of events, you know, they're scripted, they're filtered. So, yeah. I mean, it's about time that someone actually brings them accountable. And we've been really doing that ever since, and we want more people to start doing that.
And Jose, it's like you're not fobbed off either. You kind of know they're going to try and fob you off with, oh, we'll listen to your answer and we'll listen to you and thank you for your contribution and all that. But you don't seem to accept that. You know that they've got an agenda to silence you. So you carry on right up till the intervention physically comes about. That just shows how poor the democracy is, that you have to push yourself right to the edge to get your point across, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, exactly. And you know, none of those people have actually ever said Seymour Hersh's name publicly. They never even denounced Seymour Hersh either, right? It'd be one thing if they were saying, oh, you know, Seymour Hersh has become a Russian disinformation agent, right? And nobody should be listening to him. No, they've just, instead, they've opted to just completely ignore him, give him a complete blackout. And now what? Now they're suggesting again that the Russians might have blown up their own Nord Stream pipeline. The Guardian, I think, reported yesterday, oh, just before the Nord Stream pipeline was blown up, we got a Russian Navy ship pictured nearby. It's like, okay, really? Like this, they're all dancing around the ghost of Seymour Hersh, and they refuse to say his name. And that's why you have to bring it up, because he can haunt the minds of those people, because they know they're ignoring him willfully.
And the Uhuru movement, I mean, I hadn't heard of that before your clip. So in a way, what you're doing when you get viral and you put all this stuff out in one clip is you educate people about other things, because I had no idea, and then I looked it up, and these people have been arrested for allegedly being backed by Russia or having some link with Russia and being opposed to the Ukraine war. And I don't think anyone in the UK knows about that. So it's really helpful that you did that. But Now, I want to show that it wasn't just it wasn't just you, Jose, that got in on that act. There is a secondary clip. I'm going to play Keenan's contribution now.
You know what? He's right. He's right about Julian Assange. He was the only one who did his job right. He exposed U.S. war crimes. He exposed crimes that we committed in Afghanistan, killing civilians. None of your outlets reported that. None of your outlets did. Instead, you're bowing down to the war policy, the war nuts who are going to get us all blown up in a World War III. You continue to work for the outlets who continue to lie to the American public and will get us killed. Why don't you leave those outlets? Why don't you do? Tucker Carlson was kicked out because he had the guts to actually talk about the war.
Well, I mean, that's the thing about all this is the media are just so frustrating to watch. I mean, in this country, it's the same. We have Ukraine wall to wall. Anything to do with Russia, you're a Putin apologist. It's and like you say, it's heading to World War III. Do you think this has gained a lot of traction from other people, from people watching the clip, Jose?
Yes, I would say yes. And I think even Kynan has gotten a lot of support into that, right, Kynan?
Oh yeah, a lot of people are watching my stuff now.
Yeah, because this isn't, the Kynan has done some solo interventions too. Like, there's one time he confronted Anne Applebaum. That was really good because he got her. Do you know about this? Anne Applebaum's husband is this guy named, what's his name?
Radoslaw Sikorski. He was a former Polish foreign minister.
Yeah, Radoslav Coleslaw. He had posted a picture of the Nord Stream bombed after it was bombed, and then he wrote it, "Thank you, USA," and then he deleted it. And then Kynan confronted his wife, and his wife, he says, "Why did your husband post that?" And then she says, "It was a joke." Oh, really? Then why'd he delete it? Because people didn't get the joke. And
yeah,
so
the thing is, you work together, which is a different approach to this. Because if one of you says something and misses saying something, and the other one can come in, and this is a great example with AOC. I'll just go. This is a fantastic clip here.
Congresswoman, none of this matters unless there's a nuclear war, which you voted to send arms and weapons to Ukraine. Tulsi Gabbard, she's left the Democratic Party because they're a bunch of war hawks, okay? You originally voted, you ran as an outsider, yet you've been voting to start this war in Ukraine. You're voting to start a thermonuclear war with Russia and China. Why are you playing with the lives of American citizens? You're playing with our lives.
There will be no neighbors if there's a nuclear bomb. You voted to mobilize and send money to Ukrainian Nazis. You're a coward. You're a progressive socialist. Where are you against the war mobilization? He's telling the right truth. You have done nothing. Tulsi Gabbard has shown guts where you've shown cowardice. I believed in you, and you became the very thing you sought to fight against. That's what you've become. You are the establishment, and you are the reason why everybody will end up in a nuclear war unless you choose to stand up right now and denounce the Democratic Party. Will you do that? Yes or no? Okay, simple. Are you going to stop nuclear war? Yes or no? There is no line, because this is bullshit. None of this matters if we're all dead. None of it. You know that. Then let's take it up right now, because this is the only thing that matters. This is the only thing that matters right now. We could be in a nuclear war at any minute, and you continue to fund it. That's what's going on. Why not right now? You're the liar here. Nobody has held you accountable. That's what's happening. And it is time for you to stand up and realize that what you've been saying has been lies. Let your conscience come through for once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Good.
that was great teamwork there. The two of you working on that together. Now, can you? I mean, we've spoken to Nick Brenner of the People's Party on the show before. Can you tell us what's so disappointing about AOC and the squad?
Yeah, Kynan, you want to go first? There's a lot to say on this subject.
Yeah, Jose's story is a bit more personal, I'd say, but I had never been a supporter of the squad. I mean, I'm only 21 and I've just gotten into politics recently. But, you know, AOC, I think she stood for something. You know, she wasn't part of the establishment. She did run as an outsider, and yet she promised all these things. You know, she promised to stop giving money to Israel so that they could, you know, needlessly kill innocent Palestinian civilians. I mean, she was anti-war. And yet, you know, once she became part of the swamp, I mean, all those campaign promises, they were gone. You know, she hasn't said anything about them. And yet she's been tallying down to these elite people like Pelosi, people like Biden. I mean, it's ridiculous. You know, she has completely lost all credibility when she was running. So I think what we did, we represent what a lot of people, you know, thought, that she just needs to be held accountable for her actions. And, you know, one thing I will say, I think Jimmy Dore has talked about this, was that there was originally a vote to get in Medicare for all, when I think it was the vote for the Speaker of the House, and they had refused to do that, to
bring it to the floor.
Yeah, they put the vote to the floor. And, you know, when they could have done it, I think we saw recently that when Kevin McCarthy in the United States, when he was being voted Speaker for the House, you know, the Republicans on the other side of the represented by people like Matt Gaetz, they had pushed the vote maybe, what was it, like 12 or 13 times, when the squad could have very well done that when Pelosi was being voted Speaker of the House for another term. So, you know, I mean, they're
sort of just they're posturing, and they're not earnest. They don't earnestly believe in the principles they talk about. They're kind of like just trying to make out they're doing something that's progressive. But
exactly.
when it comes down to it, they don't have the guts to act on it.
I personally think that. Oh, well, go on.
No, I'm just wondering what your thoughts are, Jose, on the Democrats as a whole. I mean, this Kennedy family member that's come to the fore. What's his role in it? I mean, can he do anything? What's he trying to do? How do you see that? Does that mean the Democrats could become radical if he got elected? Or
you know, it's funny because I was out here saying I will never vote Democrat. I will never, and you can never support a Democrat. You can't trust anybody running on the primaries, and then RFK Jr. decides to run as a Democrat. And now, I don't know. I really wish he wasn't running as a Democrat, but at the same time, I understand what he's doing, and I understand that he's, you know, he really does think the Democratic Party can be reformed. And if he does believe that, maybe he is the guy to do it, because he's a Kennedy. And he comes from a long line of people who've been assassinated for trying to reform the Democratic Party and trying to reform politics as a whole. You know, his uncle was killed for what? We're trying to dismantle the CIA. So, you know, and RFK Jr. has pledged that he'll do the same thing should he be elected. I don't agree with a lot of things with RFK Jr., but I do know that the last thing the mainstream media and the establishment want is a debate between Trump and RFK Jr., because I think those would be honest debates. I don't think either of them would resort to, there might be, but I think it would be a time just in those debates between Trump and RFK Jr. where people will be forced to have real discourse rather than just ad hominem attacks on each other.
Right. Yeah. And do you, Kynan, do you think that that Bernie Sanders as well. I mean, we sometimes over here think he's a great guy, but is he as bad as the squad?
I'd say so. I mean, I think he's lost all credibility since, really 2016, when it was shown in these email leaks from the DNC that they were planning to sabotage his campaign. Yeah, he never spoke out against that. He, shook, Hillary Clinton's hand. He continued to support her, even though she knew that they were sabotaging his campaign. It's totally ridiculous. I don't think he has any credibility left. But I would just add one more thing on RFK Jr. We should remember that his uncle, John F. Kennedy, and his father were part of, ending the Cuban Missile Crisis and preventing nuclear war in 1962. Yet we're at that exact same moment now. So it's something to recall, when considering his candidacy. And, he may be wrong on a lot of things, but we're at, the precipice of nuclear war now. And yeah.
Now, but look, before you go, because I've kept you long enough, but I just want to show you one thing, because it's a bit of it might just tell you something about what's going on in this country. We've got a leader of the Labour Party, which is a bit like your Democrats, who is a total warmonger, agrees with anything that NATO or the US say about any foreign policy, and is quite happy to arm Ukraine, and we're disappointed in that. But we did have an intervention with him last year. I don't know if you've seen it, but I want to show you, because this is just to show you that you do it great in tandem, but we've got a dynamic person here in the UK who does it, just so you can see how she does it. This is Audrey White.
I don't know how you've got the guts to come to this city after you have been being interviewed and doing columns for the Sun newspaper, after the way we as a city were abused, and after the way we as a city, the Hillsborough victims, were abused by that paper, and you've come here. Secondly, you lied to us about uniting the party. I'm still a Labour Party member, and you've expelled and witch hunted in the most vicious way I've ever seen in my lifetime. And I've been a member of the Labour Party for a long, long time. You have absolutely said you had 10 pledges, you were going to carry on the Corbyn legacy. And ever since, you've done nothing but distance yourself from the ideas which tens of thousands of people joined the Labour Party to support. And all you've done is feed into the Tory ideology of not supporting strikes, of carrying on with the privatisation of our health service. You're doing everything to feed into a Tory victory, because we may as well have a Tory if we have a person like you who lies to the party. It's dishonesty.
Thank you very much.
And our health service is going right down the pan. And you have a big responsibility, the working class people of this country.
Can you move back, please?
Excuse me. You're just, don't be getting physical.
No, I'm not touching you. Can you move back then, please?
You're touching my breast.
Can you move back, please?
Now move back.
No, can you move
I want
back,
to go to the toilet.
Toilet's over that way.
Well, there you go. See, we've got our own team here.
That's great.
Well done.
Would you have a message for Audrey if she's watching?
Yeah. I look, we need an international coalition of people who are willing to speak the truth. And I spoke with somebody named Mike Robinson, who's actually over there. He writes for a UK column. And he was telling me that it's a little more difficult to doorstep as we do here, because, these politicians, don't have open town halls like we do. So if anything, what you guys are doing is a lot braver, because you're just going in there while they're having dinner and you're confronting them with the truth, So that takes a lot of guts and courage to do. And I commend her, and I want her to keep doing it. And if she can go after Richie Sunak, I will promote the hell out of it and have her follow me on Twitter. And I'll follow her back, and I'll promote anything she does.
Kynan, do you want to say anything?
I totally agree with everything Jose said. I think that was very well done. And I'm happy to work with you guys on collaborating with these interventions, because it doesn't need to be just in the United States. The point is to build an international movement against the war mobilization, and against, the economic devastation going on generally throughout the West. So I applaud everything you're doing and should work together.